Hey, what's up, everyone? Good to be here. So, I just decided to do this, wasn't planned, but just an impromptu live stream about the rally in Virginia. I just did a video on it, and I watched Pete the Patriot. If you haven't checked him out, check out his channel. But I watched some of his thoughts on the rally tomorrow, and I just thought I wanted to do a little live stream. What's up, Lori? To get my thoughts out. If you're someone who's going to Virginia tomorrow, or if you're going to be at home like me, I'll actually be at work, but what's up, Modus? Great to see you guys. Yeah, and I just wanted to get my thoughts out about it. So, nothing that I've had in the works for a long time or anything like that, but I thought it was worth doing a live stream about. So, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. So, first, my overall theme for this is I think the people that are going, the bulk of them are patriots. It's important to support our Second Amendment. I talked about this a lot, how you see one of the high-ranking Democrats, Representative Clyburn. Why isn't this talked about on every independent content creator show, or all on, people in Fox News, or people that are in the media that claim to be Republican? I don't know why this isn't talked about more. But high-ranking Democrat Clyburn admitted that if there was a vote on the Bill of Rights today, that there would be mass Democrat opposition to the Bill of Rights. Not just the Second Amendment, your First Amendment, your right to free speech, your right to privacy. They want to take control of all that. They are against the idea of personal liberty because they want to erode the middle class, and they want to make you totally dependent on the government. Not just the national government. They want to achieve globalism and make you dependent on the global government. Layman from Newcastle. All right. Yeah, kind of near me. Awesome. So, how's it going, Robert? Great to see you as well. Cajun Patriot, thank you all for being here. So I think that, the people that are going there are great, and it is important to stand up for yourself. Now, one of the things Pete the Patriot was saying was he thinks this is kind of a setup, which I agree in some senses, that you shouldn't put yourself in a cage. And the way Northam's boxing everyone in because of this emergency declaration will be dangerous. And that is true. But the counter to that is, I don't know what you do, because it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you have people say, well, we think that it's shady that Northam's saying that there are going to be threats of violence, this could be a potential setup, so we're not going to show up. Then the federal government and the establishment learns that all they have to do to keep you from exercising your First Amendment and to keep you from exercising your right to want to defend the Second Amendment is say, oh, there's a threat of violence, and then people will back away. So it seems like we can't back down based on, Northam wanting to cage people. But on the other hand, it is evident that just like the Charlottesville situation, that they're trying to set up a situation that's a powder keg so that there'll be some sort of violence. Then they'll use that violence to smear everyone who is on the right or is a Trump supporter or defends the Second Amendment. And they'll use that violence to further erode your First Amendment rights and your Second Amendment rights. So let me briefly talk. Check out the video I just did. It's just 6 minutes, and it's a lot of the thoughts I'm talking about here, but it's more concise. But I wanted to elaborate a little. So when I'm comparing this to Charlottesville, I'm not comparing the people that are going to those that were in the Unite the Right rally. So let's talk about that real quick. The Unite the Right rally, I didn't know about the groups. I didn't even know what alt-right meant, really. To me, that just meant not your traditional, like George Bush right-wing people. I understand that a lot of really terrible groups, the Richard Spencers of the world, people that are racist, that are white nationalists, took on that mantra. But certainly you could have went to that rally and not known that. You could have just said, yeah, we should unite right-wing people. So I could see how you would have went. Now, I have no love for anyone that thinks, carrying tiki torches and saying that this should just be a white country. I have no love for that. I have no respect for that. I think that identity politics is something that I despise, regardless if it's people that are doing it in the name of the right or if people doing it in the name of the left. So I have no love for that. And I will acknowledge there could be terrible people that do try to go and fit in with the great patriots, friends of mine like Doug Ducote, American Joe. I think the Patriot Hour is going. Others that I'm friends with that are going to be in Virginia. Those are great people. Those are people that are Americans. They want to be peaceful. They want to protect our rights. They'll welcome people from all stripes. So they're not the people that were at the Unite the Right rally. But that doesn't mean that some bad apples couldn't come. That's not unique to this rally, though. We could choose to focus on, for example, the Million Man March or, marches for civil rights that were occurring during the civil rights movement. There were also agitators and bad actors in those groups. The difference is the people in power in controlling the narrative, they choose to focus when it comes to right-wing groups or groups that want to protect our rights. They focus on those bad apples to smear everyone else. So, I know I keep saying people on the right. This is not a right-left issue, though. That's a mistake I'm making, saying people on the right. Yes, most people that defend the Second Amendment are usually people that are coming from the right. Most people that understand the problems of government tyranny are usually people coming from the right. But I could personally tell you that I've talked to people, my friends that identify as Democrats, that are appalled by what Northam's doing, and they understand the importance of the Second Amendment. Here in rural Pennsylvania, there's a lot of Democrats that have been traditionally pro-union people, so they voted Democrat, but they're really troubled by what they're seeing with the identity politics of the left. They're troubled with what they saw with Hillary Clinton trying to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership and all of that stuff that would have hurt them. And because a lot of unions were against that. And this is sort of a final straw, because here in rural Pennsylvania, even the Democrats understand the importance of guns to protect ourselves from government tyranny, understand the importance of guns for sporting. I've told this story many times. I live in a poor area. Almost everyone I know owns guns, and one of the main reasons is because you hunt. If you don't get a deer in the winter, you're going to have trouble having food. That's the way it was growing up. So even the Democrats understand that. So I think that there's a huge mistake and a huge opportunity for us, regardless if you're on the right or left, to come together to say, it's not a right versus left thing. It's an establishment versus those that are against the establishment thing. And so this is a huge mistake, I think, potentially for Northam, for the Democrats in Virginia, because they're waking a sleeping beast that understands that these tyrannical attacks on our rights can't stand. So, thanks, Karma. Thanks for saying hit the like button. Jojo, my brother's in here. Thanks for being here, man. Right, Modus, prep for war, pray for peace. Absolutely right. Let's see. Yeah, so understand that's what's going on. Now, the comparison to Charlottesville, though, I'm not talking about the people that are going there for. And I understand, because what will happen is if some terrible person does something there, and we're already seeing reports that Antifa's going to show up, possibly they'll dress up like Trump supporters. There could be agitators from sort of the Northam camp that are in there trying to cause conflict. Or there could be legitimate white nationalists or something that show up that are just terrible people that use this as an excuse. See, they understand too. If you're a white nationalist, you understand almost no one takes you seriously. They're disgusted by you. So you try to piggyback off of causes to then act like you're more legitimized. So groups like that could show up. I am not defending those groups if they do something terrible. I'm saying that the people I know that are going there are great patriots, and it is a great thing to want to protect our Second Amendment rights. That's what I'm saying. So this is different than Charlottesville as far as the people that are going. But what I'm talking about in the comparison to Charlottesville is even the ACLU, which has no love for right-wing people, no love usually for pro-Second Amendment people, and certainly no love for Trump. The ACLU has become a shadow of its former self. It's gone all about getting away from it being objective and fighting for the rights of free speech, fighting for the rights of people to have due process. Now they're just anti-Trump. That's what the ACLUs became, because that's how they get their big donations. But remember, even they admitted in Charlottesville that they were appalled by the fact that the police were taking the protesters and the counter-protesters and funneling them into each other, thereby setting up a situation where violence was almost assured. Now, why would they do this? Well, we know, just like with Northam in Virginia, they didn't want that rally to happen. And so the people in power, so let's talk about Virginia for a second, they don't want this Second Amendment rally to happen. So they do all kinds of things. They push them by saying, oh, well, we heard threats were going to happen, so you can't open carry. Oh, you have to be in a specific area. They try to limit them as much as possible. And then what they want is some sort of violence to occur. That way they could say, okay, now we don't want Second Amendment groups ever speaking again because violence will follow them. Now, the stage has been set for this for a very long time. This is what the legitimization of groups like Antifa has been about. Remember, we had CNN, we had all sorts of people both in the government and outside of the government, in media, in academia, that glorify Antifa. Remember Don Lemon saying, anti-fascist, it's in their name. You remember Chris Cuomo saying, well, there's bad actors, but some violence is more justified than others. Remember the whole, is it okay to punch a Nazi thing? Remember the Berkeley riots and all the people in the media that supported Antifa doing that? That's why Trump was right in his general theme of what he said after Charlottesville, which to me, the important thing he said was there were bad people on both sides, because the media was trying to make it seem like, oh, the people against the Charlottesville protesters were all these noble, great people. They're not. That's not to say that the, white nationalists that were at Charlottesville were good people. They weren't either. Both sides had people that were terrible, and they wanted to fight each other because they're garbage. Trump understood this and said, look, let's not celebrate violence just because it's violence against people you don't like. He understood that, and that is very important. Let's see. I'm trying to follow the chat. I'm sorry. I'm kind of on a roll, but I'll get to the chat as much as I can, so forgive me on that. So what happened was Trump was trying to point that out then, and the Democrats and the establishment were against that. They tried to attack Trump over that, because they wanted you to think, oh, people on the left here, the people that were protesting, the protesters were good people. And what we see over and over again is this is what happens. There's violence at a rally, and people say, well, either blame both sides or it's the right. It's the people on the right that were the problem. I challenge you, and maybe this has happened, but I can't think of one instance where there's been a left-wing rally or a rally for a Democrat politician or a rally for a left-wing cause where you had agitators from the right, like the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer or any other group, where they showed up and started violence. It's almost always the other way. You have a Trump rally, people show up, and then the Trump people fight the anti-Trump people. But it's the anti-Trump people showing up when the Trump people had a rally that they were permitted for. You have a Patriot Prayer group, and Antifa shows up to fight them. You have all sorts, a Second Amendment rally, and people on the left show up, and there's violence. But it never occurs the other way. And when we remember the free speech rally that occurred in Boston after Charlottesville, I watched the entire live stream of that. It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. You had a few dozen people that were just rallying for free speech. That was it. It wasn't the Unite the Right people. And tens of thousands of people showed up to say they did not have the right to free speech. Then those people, some of them, not all of them, but some of those that were protesting the free speech rally clashed with police. Yet the Boston mayor, in a virtue signaling effort, said, oh, the counter-protest was incredibly peaceful. That's the danger we have. But they set this up intentionally. Now we see the fruits of that. Now they could just say ambiguously, oh, there were threats that were going to be at this Second Amendment rally. Therefore, we have to take away people's right to open carry. This has been set up. This is what they want. They encourage the violence. Remember, I've talked about this. I saw a rabbi that was quoted as saying after the Black Hebrew Israelites, I don't know if you followed my videos on this, but I showed you how I was writing back during the Covington situation, that the Black Hebrew Israelites was the black racist group that was yelling at the Covington Catholic kids with the MAGA hat on. That's the group that the Native Americans said was telling the kids harsh truths, and he had to protect that group from the children that were surrounding them. That's how noble Nathan Phillips is, a keeper of the sacred pipe. What a joke, but I'm not going to get into Covington again. But the media covered for the Black Hebrew Israelites then. Then a member of their group, predictably, shoots people up at a kosher deli. A rabbi came out and said, look, we learned the lesson from the judges ruling on the Proud Boys case. They're setting us up in a situation where we could be attacked over and over again. Law enforcement does nothing about it. And then when we defend ourselves, we are considered the monsters and we pay the price for it. Both politically, as far as the image-wise, they're smeared in the media, but also legally, where you end up in jail. That's what happened with the Proud Boys. It's the same crap that they're trying here. They're trying to provoke a response so they can say, see, look at the evil right-wingers. When it's not them that are showing up to commit violence. So remember, even in Charlottesville. Now, I'm not saying the actual police officers in Charlottesville were like terrible people. I'm saying they were ordered by someone higher up to what to do. And that was to filter the two groups into each other so that they would clash. And so then the government would have an excuse to say, see, we can't have people protesting the removal of statues anymore. That's exactly what they're going to try to do with this week with the Second Amendment rally. So be careful if you're there. Be careful. So here's some of my suggestions to you. 1, do not engage in any violence whatsoever, period. Even if you feel justified, even if you're being attacked, because it will be taken out of context. If it's a life and death situation and you're attacked and you need to defend yourself, that's one thing. But if you're spit on, if you're slapped, don't respond back with violence. Tell the people around you, the good patriots around you, point out the people that did it. Do whatever you can to assure, because there could be people infiltrating, pretending to be patriots, pretending to be defenders of the Second Amendment that are going to try to provoke things like this. So point those people out if you see them. That is very important. And to go along with this, welcome people that you might disagree with politically, but have the greater cause of wanting to defend the Second Amendment. Listen, we have this false dichotomy set up of there's a left versus right issue. In many things, there are left versus right issues. But also, I understand, and you know, if you're a Trump supporter or you're a Republican, you might disagree with me here. But hear me out. Our country needs at least 2 robust political ideologies or political parties. We do. Because if you just have one, then it becomes stagnant. Then it becomes corrupt. So you need something to keep you in check. You remember how I used to be a wrestling fan. You remember how WWF was better when WCW was going? And then once WCW was out, not as good. Competition's a good thing. The same is true in the marketplace of ideas. So I want 2 parties that care about the people. I don't agree with the Democrats, but I could respect them if they're just a party that's caring about the people and we just have disagreements on specific policies. Yeah, Dean, I'll get to that in a second about our media and what we could do about that at this rally. What we need to be willing to do is understand that the real issue is like sort of the globalists versus everyone else. It's the establishment versus everyone else. Because make no mistake about it, there are people in the Republican Party, the Mitt Romneys of the world, the Jeff Flakes of the world, the John McCains of the world, and there could be others. They didn't want Trump there. Trump's a threat to the establishment on both the right and the left in their power. He's a potential outsider. That's why they hated him and they wanted to keep him out. They just had hubris and assumed that Hillary would wipe the floor with them because they had everything in their pocket. They control the public narrative. They control all of the cultural institutions of power. They control the media, academia, the entertainment industry, Silicon Valley. So they assumed Trump didn't have a chance, and they were wrong. Now, for the first time in my lifetime, they're nervous. So the point of this is there will be people there, and this is something we should do outside of the Second Amendment rally as well. We have the right ideas. We are willing. We're the party of judging you by the content of your character, not the color of your skin. We're the party of free speech. We're the party of being able to joke around. We're the party of fun. We're not the left that's willing to ruin your life for making a joke that you made in high school. We're not the left that looks at, or the Democratic Party that looks at you and says you're only your skin color, or you're only your gender, or you're only your sexual preference. That's not who we are. We're willing to have friends, to listen to different ideas, and we're willing to bring a coalition of people together because we understand that we're not going to agree on everything, but we need to take allies from all areas that are against this tyranny and things like attacking the Second Amendment. So if you're at this rally and you see people that maybe you disagree with on social issues, maybe you disagree with on issues such as gay marriage. Maybe you disagree with on issues such as economic policy and Medicare for all. That's fine. We can have those disagreements. But we need to accept allies when we can. I say this over and over and over again. I don't care what your issue is, if you're on the left or the right. Maybe your issue is climate change. Maybe your issue is Second Amendment rights. Maybe your issue is ending these tyrannical regime change wars. None of those issues matter in a world where we have a corrupt establishment, a corrupt intel agency, corrupt people running our government, many of which who aren't even ever voted for, career politicians, that all of them don't care about you, and they're willing to run the government and take away your voice from behind the scenes. So we need to bring people together on all sides of the issue. So if you're at Virginia and you see don't just shun people because you think they have different ideas than you. If they're there legitimately to protect our Second Amendment rights, then they're our allies. And we should stick together like that. So remember that. The last piece of advice I have is this. We all have one of these now. Almost all of us, I'd assume. If you're there and you have some sort of recording device like your cell phone, please record everything. Because like Dean was saying earlier, our media is so corrupt. They will, even if the rally goes completely swimmingly and is 99.9999% peaceful, and it's people engaging with civility, and it's people engaging in dialogues with people they disagree with, the media will take that 0.0001% and they'll use that to say, see, everyone here's a bigot. Look at what they did at the Tea Party. This is their motif. This is their go-to strategy. So record everything you can. The media will lie. They're already doing it. I've even seen blue check marks on Twitter that are supposedly right-wing Trump supporters that are smearing the people going there as alt-right and as white nationalists. I've certainly seen blue checkmark type people on the left saying it's going to be white nationalists. But when you even have people on the right that are saying this is going to be the narrative. They're going to try to get their cameras on one person that's maybe saying something racist or doing something, or one person spitting on someone, or one person pushing someone, or behaving in a boorish manner, and they'll say, this represents the group as a whole. The way we fight back against that is by, if you're there, be a citizen journalist. We don't have a free press. The free press now is the people. When you hear the press, when you hear Anderson Cooper, when you hear Jake Tapper talk about the importance of having a free press and how it's the last step to stop government tyranny because it informs the people, he's right. That's what the intent of a free press is. What he's wrong about is we haven't had a free press for over 3 decades, probably longer. And it gets worse every year. Now we see a revolving door where the same intel people that are corrupt and are engaged in a coup against our president are now the head pundits on these new, quote, news channels. It's a joke. They push the Russia propaganda Steele dossier and the fact that Trump and those connected to him were a Russian stooge for 3 years. That was a lie. They pushed it for 3 years. They said that the FBI would never just use that Steele dossier to get a wiretap on people connected to Trump. That was a lie. They're pushing this impeachment crap and saying that Joe and Hunter Biden did nothing wrong. That's a lie. The media does not speak truth to power. The media hides the truth for the powerful. They are the propaganda mouthpiece for the intel agencies, for the establishment, and the face of that is the Democratic Party. That's who the media is. Even most of Fox News sucks. Let's not kid ourselves. This is why they're so afraid of the internet. This is why they're so afraid of modern technology. The media used to be the gatekeepers of all of this information, and they still try to be. But they realized the threat of people like me, independent content creators. Why do you think they went after someone who's basically harmless like PewDiePie? For those of you who don't know PewDiePie, he's like a younger guy, he does video game videos, connects to millennials. He's basically just joking. He's not even that political. But the media went after him. Why? Because they realize he's getting millions and millions of views a day. That makes him their chief rival. That means that they no longer have a monopoly on information, and they can't tolerate that, because the only way the establishment can continue to survive and take away our rights is if they control access to information. The bulk of this country are just regular people that just want to be left alone. They want to go to their jobs. They want to come home and watch something entertaining, spend time with their families. They're not looking at things like me, as much as I do. I do it because I care about the country, but it's not that they don't care about the country. I happen to just be talented and be able to talk about this stuff, and I happen to have the free time to do it and enjoyment in doing it. But like people like my parents, they're working. They have really crazy busy lives. They don't have time to read these stories like I do or to follow things like I do. We need to reach those people. Right now, if you turn on any of the late night comedy shows, it's the establishment Democrat point of view. If you turn on any news show, almost all of them, establishment Democrat point of view. If you go to the movies, they're pushing SJW stuff, kind of the establishment Democrat point of view, etc. We are fighting back, not with violence, but with information. That's what you could do at this rally by taking away that monopoly on information that the media has, by filming and getting it out there. It doesn't matter. It does not matter if only 2 or 3 people watch it. That's fine. By getting that information out there and getting that video out there, people will see and people will push the truth. And then people will see more and more how the media are liars that are slanting this to go after real Americans that are just defending their rights. Go back to the Covington situation. Remember what happened? The media released that edited footage and said these white kids wearing MAGA hats surrounded a peaceful Native American. That was a lie. But the only reason we know it's a lie is because there were smart people there that recorded the whole incident. If they hadn't, those kids' lives would have been ruined more than they already have. The same will be true here Monday. Anytime you're going to one of these rallies, please record as much as possible. So my 3 pieces of advice again is, don't reciprocate any sort of violence. Unless your life's in danger, if you're spat on, if you're pushed, if you're shoved, don't respond because it will be taken out of context. This is what Northam and the Democrats are trying to do. They want to provoke a response. Second, be willing to ally yourself with people that you might have disagreements with on all sorts of policies. But we should be willing to take allies for those that want to protect against government tyranny and the erosion of our Second Amendment rights. And third, film everything. Please be safe if you're there. I encourage you, that's the most important thing. Be safe. For those of us that aren't going, do what you can to seek before you jump on a story, regardless if it fits your perspective or not. Please double check it. Don't rush to judgment. You might see something that looks like, a patriot got punched in the face by someone else. But please be skeptical because until you see the full range of what exactly is going on with a longer video, we don't know what it's going to be. I'm guilty of rushing to judgment myself at times as well. So please do that. Please keep these people, your patriots are there, in your thoughts. Please understand that if there are a few bad apples, that doesn't represent everyone was there. And don't jump on that bandwagon. If it turns out that a white nationalist is there and is doing terrible things or saying terrible things, don't smear people that went there for the right reasons because of that. And by the way, if you're there, that's another thing. If you're there and you see people, like I said, intentionally provoking or intentionally being terrible people, call that out. Let people know this isn't what we represent. Try to stay informed if you're not going. Try to keep looking at what's going on here and understand the importance of this. One of the things, look, again, thank you to a lot of my new viewers that come from places like American Joe and other places like that. I know all of you understand the importance of the Second Amendment and understand that the real reason we have it is to protect from government tyranny. But understand there are a lot of people that think, I just have no interest in owning a gun. Therefore, that must mean the Second Amendment's not that important. And so we need to reach out to those people and talk about why it is important. We get laughed at when people talk about government tyranny. They say, what are the chances that the government would do something like this? The first incident that really got me involved in kind of politics and skeptical nature of large establishment governments was the Waco incident. They actually admitted, if you watched my live stream last night, they admitted, the FBI admitted that they put enough tear gas in that house in Waco to torture the children. In fact, it ended up acting as strychnine and killed the actual tear gas, killed these children in one of the most painful ways you could imagine. When asked about it, they said, we thought if we harmed the children, the parents would leave them go. That's government tyranny. Now, sure, that was on a small scale, but to one group. But if they could do it to one group, why couldn't they do it to more? We see Bernie supporters that Bernie wants a massive government, right? His supporters are publicly saying, gulags will be a good thing. We see polls that show the majority of millennials think that we should not have a First Amendment, that it shouldn't protect certain speech that they call hate speech. Those same people say defending Donald Trump is hate speech. This is all actions that could come from a tyrannical government. We see the FBI and our intel agencies abuse power 17 times with abuses to spy on the president of the United States. If they could do it to Trump, what makes you think they couldn't do it to you? That's a tyrannical government. Now, yes, I know we have people like Swalwell saying, what will your rifle do against nuclear weapons? The government has nuclear weapons. This is a lie. This is kind of a deflection that these people make. Understand that our military, as massively powerful it is, and sure, we'll never have a militia that could compete with it. But understand the military is made up of Americans. And the vast majority of them understand. That's why the information warfare is so important. And I don't mean to say warfare isn't violence, but it is a battle. That's why we need to fight back against the hegemonic total control of information that the establishment has. Remember, they control all the institutions that control the public narrative, the media, the entertainment industry, academia, Silicon Valley. They're constantly trying to censor us on social media. That's what they're trying to do. So if we win that information battle, it's not like the entire military is going to agree to wipe people out. That's not what anyone's suggesting. But the potential you have to defend yourself means that you could stop short government tyranny in incremental ways in which they would try to come after you. Look at a country like the UK. We actually have incident after incident where thousands of young girls were gang raped by Islamic refugees, which is terrible. And those people, the worst punishment should be reserved for them. But what I'm focusing on here is this was done over 3 decades, and the police and council people in city after city in the UK knew about it. And when people, your family, girls you knew that were in your family or your friend's family were being attacked like this, and you went to the police, you were treated like a criminal. So then they took matters into their own hands and they tried to go and do something about it themselves. Then they got arrested. Then they tried to have rallies. Then those rallies were stopped. All of that's able to be done because people didn't have the right to defend themselves. That's an example of government tyranny. Let's check the chat here real quick. Right. I mean, this nuke argument from Swalwell, needless to say, he's no intellectual juggernaut. Don't really. Yeah, I mean, Glenn, I've seen, I've heard that people in the National Guard have been called that they might end up going Virginia. I've seen videos and pictures of certain equipment being sent there. So, yeah, Alan, it seems like there's not going to be any good coming out of this mess. But like I was saying at the beginning, I don't know. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. On one hand, check out my friend. He doesn't know me very well, but it's someone I follow, Pete the Patriot. Check out his channel. He just did a live stream, and he was saying maybe we should move the rally. People impromptu move to a different area because this is clearly a setup. But the problem is if you capitulate like that, then constantly what will happen is every time you try to have a rally, it will be interfered with. Like you see this on a smaller level on campuses where you'll have a conservative speaker that wants to come to campus, like let's just say an Ann Coulter, and she'll want to come to campus. And so then a bunch of people will riot and threaten violence. And so then the campus will say, oh, you can't have the rally here because the potential for violence, or you can have it here, but you have to pay like $500,000 for security. And so then you're in this terrible situation where it's like, well, if you show up and speak, then there's violence and you get blamed for the violence and potentially bad stuff could happen to you and your supporters. But if you don't show up, then it's considered a victory and it emboldens, in this case, it would embolden Ralph Northam and the establishment to say, all we have to do is say, oh, there were threats of violence anytime there's going to be a rally we don't like, and we could cause them to back down or to move, and it's a sign of weakness. So, I mean, I could see the argument both ways. But yeah, I mean, I hope I'm pessimistic. I think that, there will be bad news to come out of this. I think that there's going to be provocateurs. I think that there's going to be an intentional powder keg set up. I think that the establishment wants to see some sort of violence, but I'm hoping that it's avoided. I really am. Thank you, Lori, for telling people to like and share. Yes, like and share. Thank you. Yeah, Locke, you're right. Absolutely. You give an inch, they take a mile. Jojo. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a great point. And for those of you who don't know, JoJo's my brother. Which, by the way, JoJo, do you allow me to use your real first name on here? Yeah, but that's where you're right. And one of the things that's important is understand this. I don't know that Trump is look, I'm a Trump supporter, don't get me wrong. But I don't know that Trump is ideologically for the Second Amendment. I don't think he's opposed to it necessarily. I just think it's not a big issue for him. And one of the things that happens is because the establishment is so against Trump, it's hard for Trump to find people to put around him. I've never seen an administration in any political body, whether it be United States or elsewhere, that had as many leaks, as many people from inside his own team that are against him. And so he surrounds himself with people, and I think that he's listening to them, and they have the establishment and not his and not the country's best interest in mind. And so one of the things that this rally could do is show Trump, your supporters defend the Second Amendment. Don't listen to the people around you saying, oh, red flag laws. Red flags are an abomination. They will be used to stymie anyone's rights who anyone in the establishment wants to silence. Look what they did to Kavanaugh. They just made the accusation. I said then, if you go back, the two big situations that I said met, I could see voting Democrat before this for various reasons. I certainly wouldn't, but I understand why you might. But for me, I couldn't see how any conscionable person could vote for the Democrats after Covington and after the Kavanaugh situation. In the Kavanaugh situation, not, small people like me on the left, not YouTubers, not fringe people, the actual people running the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, Dianne Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker, all of these people came out and said the concept of innocent until proven guilty, which is the foundational legal concept in our country. It is the cornerstone on which all of our laws rely on. They said that concept needed to be thrown out. And I said that is the end of our country if that's the case. Elections will be decided based on rumor and innuendo. People's lives will be destroyed just because whoever the establishment didn't like smears a rumor about them. That's exactly what red flag laws would be. It's just the extension of that. If they could smear Kavanaugh with absurd sexual abuse allegations, why couldn't they smear any American they wanted to with an absurd allegation that you might commit violence? Then you lose your Second Amendment rights without even a chance to defend yourself in a court of law beforehand. That is ridiculous. And Trump has at times expressed some interest in possibly having red flag laws. So Jojo, you're right. What this will show is it shows the country that we're not going to take this stuff. We understand the importance of the Second Amendment. It's not a left-right issue. There are Democrats that understand that issue as well. For those of you that are in Pennsylvania, a lot of Democrats run and they're pro-Second Amendment Democrats. They're going to be put in a tight position over this. So it shows the country, it shows Trump. The people that are against you, the people in the establishment Democratic Party are against your rights. They're against these guns. They lied when they said they weren't going to try to take your guns. They are. They're extremist on this. Keep in mind, Northam was willing to declare an emergency declaration knowing that anywhere from 15,000 to 150,000 people were supposed to show up, many of which would be open carrying. He's willing to criminalize 15,000 or more people based on, quote, some sort of threat. So you don't think that red flag laws would be used in a similar fashion to strip you of your rights? Of course they would. So this rally could show us, and it also shows people that maybe don't speak up much, that do support the Second Amendment. Wow, there are tens of thousands of people that were willing to march in Virginia, even under threats of their safety, even under threats of their freedom. They were willing to go march. And that shows, that this country is willing to stick up for that. Let's see. Civil War will be tough here. How would you... Yeah, I agree. It'll be a slow, low-level civil war. It'll be incremental. The incremental taking away of your rights. But again, the information warfare is what's going to be the most important thing in that. People always assume, oh, what side's better with guns? That's not what it's going to be. They'll be able to, if they win, it'll be through propaganda. And they'll be able to convince the majority of Americans that they're already doing it, right? Like, under Obama, his DOJ came out with warnings on what makes a potential terrorist. It said things like people that talk about the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, veterans, people that talk about the importance of the Second Amendment, people that talk about balancing the federal budget. Those are all potential domestic terrorists. If they win that information warfare and convince the average American, oh man, that person talks about the need to balance the budget. That person talks a lot about guns and the Second Amendment. Therefore, they must be a bad person. That's how they win. So that's why it's important to be as transparent as possible, be civil, don't fall for the bait, but win the information warfare. That's what I'm trying to do on this channel. Yeah, the Empire's Post says the oligarchs, the Fabian socialists, like all progressive socialists, communists, globalists, want a few select at the top, and most everyone else's servants or slaves. That's absolutely right. Their goal is San Francisco. That's where they want everywhere. That's a return to feudalism. For those of you who don't know, look back at your medieval times, in the UK and other places where times of knights and things like that. everyone was basically peasants and serfs, and you lived around the castle in squalor and in terrible conditions, and you relied on the king to give you food. You worked the fields, you gave all of your wealth to the king, and then he dispersed it as he saw fit. That's what they want. They want a return to that. And the biggest stumbling block the globalists have to that is the middle class, particularly in the United States. That's why they want to erode that. Part of that's taking away your right to free speech. Part of it's taking away your right to defend yourself. So the First and the Second Amendment. It's taking away your economic stability. When you become reliant on the government, this isn't just right-wing people that say this. Again, I say this all the time. Left-wing postmodernists like Michel Foucault called this biopower. And the idea is if you give the power to the government to control your life and to give you life, so you can't eat unless the government gives you food, you also give the power to the government to take your life away. And so it's not just the government. Like, why do you think the Mark Zuckerberg, you know, the guy that runs Facebook, he lectures you on the need to take poor people in from other countries and why we should basically have open borders. Meanwhile, 2 blocks from his house is a living hell where people are living in squalor on the streets. Now, this man's worth billions of dollars, but he ain't doing jack to help the people in his own community, is he? But that's the model they seek for the rest of the world and for the rest of the country. So that's why they want to remove our right to defend ourselves. That's the first step. The blackface, yeah. I mean, Ralph Northam with blackface. By the way, I defended Ralph Northam when it came to blackface. I think it was probably a joke. I like comedy. Even comedy in bad taste shouldn't be used to ruin someone's life. Now, what's more offensive that Ralph Northam did was his comments on abortion, where he basically cheered for infanticide. But I defended Northam on the blackface thing. I was like, I don't want to see him lose his job over that. However, the left was coming for him. And so he understands, in order to get one of the sacred cows of the cultural Marxist, of the identitarian politics people and the progressive, is race. And if you do something that denigrates any of the racial groups that they consider oppressed, then that's unforgivable. Unless you go for a bigger sacred cow. And even above that is going after guns and for abortion. And so what did Northam immediately do? He came out with the most radical gun policies and the most radical abortion policies. That's what he did. In fairness, the abortion policies were before the blackface scandal. So it's almost like, crap, you caught me in blackface or in a KKK outfit? Yeah, but let's take away guns. And then the left's like, okay, that's okay then. Same with Trudeau. They found him with blackface, so what's he do? He comes out and just becomes more progressive, more cultural, or more identity politics than ever. So that's what it's about. I do need a moderator, Lori, and it is something that I have no idea how to appoint a moderator, but by the end of the week, I will find out. I'm going to talk to some friends of mine like Drone Tech and SJG, which I just did some videos with them you can check out, and they're going to help me out with that. The FBI will have long-range cameras everywhere. Yeah, the FBI, certainly, the FBI, the corrupt, or the inept, if you believe the Democrats. FBI, they're certainly against the American people and would be all for the disarmament of the American people, and they will be willing to do any shady trick possible to paint people in a bad light. Let's see. Right, umpire post. That's the catch with identity politics. That's the catch with cultural Marxism. Umpire Post says if it was a Republican that did blackface, they wouldn't be elected. Right. Remember, believe all women when it came to Kavanaugh. At the same time, Keith Ellison, who was one of the second in command of the DNC and was running for what? District Attorney of Michigan, I believe, or Minnesota, one of the two. Big wig in the Democratic Party. Everything that Kavanaugh was accused of, there was no evidence for. There were no specifics. However, with Ellison, we had contemporaneous witnesses. I think it was his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend said that he massively abused her. Unlike with Kavanaugh, we had contemporary witnesses, so she told her friends at the time she was beaten by Ellison. She had police reports. She had photos of injuries. Despite all of that, the Democrats didn't believe her. Bob Menendez, a senator from New Jersey who's a Democrat, was accused of sexually abusing underage prostitutes. They said, oh no, let's leave a trial come out, which, by the way, they're right about that. I think that we shouldn't judge people until they have a chance to defend themselves. I even defended Al Franken on this. I defend Keith Ellison. I do. I defend them on this. But the left says you're guilty until proven innocent, unless you agree with us, unless you're a Democrat. It's the same with all cultural Marxism. They break you down based on identity politics. They break you down based on these groups. So I'm not Rob Noor. I am a series of characteristics. I'm white. I'm male. I'm straight. I'm fat. So those groups are, you're either oppressor or oppressed. White, I'm an oppressor. Male, I'm an oppressor. Straight, I'm an oppressor. Fat, oh, I'm oppressed. Right? That's how they break it down. And then you just take all the groups, you take all the oppression, and that's good because you're a victim. And then you all unite under these oppression. It comes with some really weird things, though. So, like, you have Islam and LGBT people in the same group. But the Islamicists hate the LGBT people. But they're supposed to unite over their hatred of rich white guys. That's the idea. So anyways, if you're black, for example, then you're oppressed. And you get all kinds of oppression points, right? However, there's one thing that matters more than any of those categories. Do you agree with them? Are you ideologically on the same side as them? If not, then none of those oppression points count. In fact, they'll come at you with more vitriol. Look at Kanye West. Look at Candace Owens. Look, the identity politics people hate someone like me. You know, some white guy. But they really hate black people that are like, we don't buy into this crap. We're not going to be perpetual victims. They really hate women that say we're not perpetual victims. They really hate gay people that say we're not perpetual victims. They come after those people way worse than they'll ever come after me. So that's what you see. That's exactly what you're saying, that they'll go after a Republican, but not a Democrat. Because as long as you're on your side, on their side, anything could be forgiven. I'm not fat, I'm big boned. Maybe both. Let's see. It's going fast here, but I need to get my full beard back, says Robert. Maybe it'll grow eventually. It gets scraggly and there's a lot of whiteness to it. The beard I don't mind. I could grow out, but I'm going bald up top with the hair. I'm going to have the Danny DeVito hair soon, so... Right, Dean, you're absolutely right. They defended Bill Clinton. And worse than that, they defended, even in this last election, they defended Harvey Weinstein going into 2016, big Democrat donor. All of them were taking pictures with him. Louis Farrakhan, right? All of these people. Once that no longer affects them, right? Why did they sacrifice Al Franken, for example? Well, because Al Franken was just replaced by a Democrat, so they didn't lose a seat. If it would have cost them a seat, if it would have been an election, there's no way they would have came out for Al Franken and said, look, you have to step down. But because they just asked him to come down and a Democrat was put in his seat, they're not going to lose power. But yeah, they'll virtue signal like that. I always say fat people will soon be a victim category. They already are. There's already people that are saying that we need fat acceptance, and it's very dangerous. It's not healthy. But there's a movement out there that says, oh, you have to accept fat people and we're oppressed and blah, blah, blah. And when it really, no, look, I'm not saying you should go out. First off, you can joke about how you want. You can make jokes about me all you want. I don't care. But you shouldn't make it a point to try to harm people. If you're trying to be funny or whatever, that's one thing. But certainly it's harmful to try to tell people that, like, oh, your unhealthy eating or exercising habits are you're a victim because of those. That's ridiculous. Trump cares about going down in history with Nixon or Clinton. I don't know. Maybe he cares, but it's irrelevant to me. I'm not in it for one person or even one party. I'm in it because I care about the country. I'm not one of these people that think Trump's playing 4D chess all the time. I think that Trump's largely successful because he's going against some of the dumbest political operatives in history in the Democratic Party. And that they had extreme hubris. They've been corrupt for so long. They haven't been held accountable for so long. They just assumed they had it in the bag against Trump. Trump's biggest success and the biggest reason I voted for him was outing this corruption, this incestuous relationship between the intel community, wealthy people that basically buy the government, unelected bureaucrats, not just in the intel community, but like at the State Department and other places, and the mainstream media and academia, and Silicon Valley and the entertainment industry as far as that goes. And Trump has done that. Now, did Trump do that because he was a genius? Because there's some like counter conspiracy going on that he prepped all this 10 stages ahead? I don't believe so. I know a lot of Trump fans believe that. I believe it's just because the hubris was so strong on the left and they're so stupid that they couldn't help but out themselves because the mere thought that they might lose power after having a total grip on it for over 30 years scared them. So they came out with guns a-blazing. That's what I believe. So I really don't. I mean, I guess to me it's irrelevant whether or not Trump's concerned about his image that he was impeached. The impeachment's a sham anyways. If I was Trump, I'd wear it as a badge of honor because he was impeached by some of the most corrupt people ever in our government. Yeah, Lisa, I mean, you're right about that. Now, I will vote for Trump again for two reasons. One, he's done enough and he's done the big things that I wanted which the biggest thing was outing this corruption, and that will continue to happen. So that's why I'll vote for him. And also, what's the alternative? I mean, the Democrats are horrible, and I'm still going to vote. But absolutely, Lisa, you'll find me criticize Trump on this channel. Let me just give you a small rundown. The deficit spending's absurd. The signing of some of these omnibus bills that did things like fund Planned Parenthood is absurd. Or, the lack of as much progress that should be happening on the border wall is absurd. Though that's predominantly Congress's fault, not his. Bombing Syria, that was his fault. That was a mistake. Surrounding himself with warmongers like John Bolton, that's on him. That was a mistake. Now, if you're a Trump supporter, I hope you don't think that means, I'm not going to follow this guy, because I hope that you all get this. Look, one of the pieces of advice I would give to anyone, I don't care what your political beliefs are, never, ever, ever sacrifice your integrity and your beliefs just because you're cheering for your team. Like, don't do it. Everyone who's a free thinker will never find someone that they totally agree with them. Even your best friend, even your spouse, even your family. No one's going to totally agree with you. That means that no politician or no political party will totally agree with you. And so there's no shame in saying, hey, I support this person, but here's some criticisms I have. And if we're unwilling to do that, that's just one step to selling out our integrity. And before you know it, you're cheering for things like bailing out bankers and stuff just because your side's doing it. And I refuse to ever be part of that. So I hope that you get, I hope that people get from that you, even if you disagree with me, I am giving you my honest opinion. And I'm not going to pull punches just because I think it's my team doing something. Let's see. Yeah, we do have to call out both sides, Robert. I absolutely agree. And we need to, that's one of the things I try to do is speak with people that disagree with me, because I'm trying to show I think I'm confident in what I believe, and I think I'm a pretty good debater and I'm a pretty good talker. So I'm confident that I'll be able to hold my own in any discussion, but I'm willing to listen to people with different ideas, and maybe they'll convince me to change my mind on some issues. And it's good to have that dialogue and to see. Here's the secret. Most people that aren't in the ruling class and the establishment class, but most of us all want the same things. We don't like poverty. We don't like mass shootings. We don't like murder. We don't like people not having health care. We don't like people, being in massive debt. We don't like, all sorts of these bad diseases, whatever. We just disagree on how to solve them. Sometimes we disagree in huge ways. For example, I have a lot of friends. We all have these goals. We want the country to be as great as possible, but they think we need a massive socialist government to accomplish that. I couldn't disagree more. I think that that's a terrible idea. So, but it is important to call both sides. Modus, what'd you say? Yeah, I saw that there's going to be more aid going to the wall, so that's a good thing. Yeah, Lisa, again, I agree with you. Be a Trump fan, but keep a fire lit behind him. Agreed. Because, see, Trump, a lot of this is he surrounded himself with bad people. So it's important for us, the people that supported Trump and the people that are patriots and care about this country, to let him know what the actual people thought. The real world isn't Twitter. The real world isn't Fox News or MSNBC. So it's important for us to get our voices out there. Yeah, Mark, 5 out of 6. Yeah, I would say that's fair. 4 or 5 out of 6. He's definitely the best president in my lifetime. The politician I supported more than him would have been Ron Paul, but even him, there were things I disagreed with. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Vote for Bernie. If you don't like the gun laws in Virginia, you could leave. Ironically, though, you would say the exact opposite about sanctuary city policies. See, the left is trying to make the argument, you can't compare sanctuary gun cities from sanctuary immigration cities. And they're right, you can't compare them. Because the Constitution expressly says that you have a right to a Second Amendment. It says nowhere that you have a right to be an illegal citizen. Nowhere does it say you have that right. So it's funny to watch the left squirm. When we actually have a constitutional right being violated, they say, you can't have sanctuary cities. If you don't like it, leave. The state's allowed to decide what they want. But when it comes to illegal immigration, they say, sanctuary cities, we need them. So, yeah, it's actually, you're right. It's good to be objective and have integrity. And it could be that Trump's misinformed. I agree. That's why it's up to us to try to get a voice out there as much as possible to talk about, what the average person's thinking. So I have about 10 more minutes. I get to leave and go every Sunday. I get to have dinner at my in-laws, which helps me keep my big boned nature in full stature. So I'll be wrapping up here shortly, but yeah, I just wanted to do a little about that. Please, if I could give, again, I gave my advice for the people on the street. If I can give us all advice and hold me accountable to this too, because I fail all the time. Don't rush to judgment. When the news comes out of Virginia, whether it's news that benefits your side or not, don't rush to judgment. Look, try to inform yourself as much as possible. There will be people that are the media is terrible. They will selectively smear people as much as possible. The establishment will try to harm the idea of people that want to protect the Second Amendment as much as possible. So try to stay informed. Keep these people in your thoughts and don't rush to judge. And correct people that engage in this massive rush to judgment that are going to say, I saw a picture, there was some guy with a swastika there, therefore everyone, it's like unite the right all over. That is not what it is. And we shouldn't smear. By the way, you shouldn't smear people on the left in that way either. If there's a rally, and maybe it's a rally for something, maybe there's a women's march thing. Yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on there. But if there's one crazy Antifa person at a woman march that's beating people, that doesn't mean they all engaged in violence. Now, you could criticize the leaders of the march or the message behind the march, which I certainly do about the women's march. Not that I don't agree with, women having right. I absolutely think that women should have every right that men has. Within reason, there should be little things such as, maternity leave, things like that. But the law should be equal as much as possible. But the idea of the Women's March, it's more of misandrist. It's more of just identity politics. It's, like the Elizabeth Warren, vote for me because I have a vagina type thing. It's all garbage. The left are modern day religious zealots. They're inconsistent. Yeah, Cheshire Cut. So one of the things I say a lot is I have a ton of friends on the left because I was in university. I'm very lucky in that I kind of lived in these two worlds simultaneously. The people I respect the most are people where I'm from in rural Pennsylvania that work with their hands, like truck drivers, welders, farmers. That's what all my friends and family did. Mechanics, bartenders, things like that. That's what my family did. I respect that, but I suck at that stuff. So I went off to university and I was a pretty good debater in university, and that's what I was good. So I thought one of the things I could do with this channel and one of the things I could do by running for Congress was to give a voice for these people that make this country great, the 9 to 5 people that are working every day. But I also met a lot of great people in university and debate. Most of them were left-wing people. We were all against the Iraq war when I got to university, like by 2003, 2004. They say I've changed. How could you change and vote for Donald Trump? I didn't change. They changed. The same kind of zealotry that was of a religious nature that we used to rally against, that's how they're behaving. The same intel agents that we were against in 2003, now they're supporting when it comes to the coup against Trump because they hate Trump. So it's not me that's changed. It's them that's changed. And I say all the time, one of my great loves is comedy. If you follow Lenny Bruce was this comedian back in the 50s and 60s. He used to get arrested for obscenity all the time. And it was because he was making fun of the Catholic Church primarily. So the police would wait outside of his show. And as soon as he told these jokes about the Catholic Church, they would arrest him. And comedians came together and was like, this is absurd. Now he's considered like a free speech hero. When I was big into like Sega and Super Nintendo when I was in school, you had this guy, Jack Thompson, that was coming out, and he was kind of a religious guy that would say, video games are evil, blah, 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 and trying to censor them. I was against that. The comic book code, that was kind of the right that was forced a comic book code. Now it's completely flipped the script. Now the censors, the zealots, are those on the left. So it's not that I've changed. I've been against censorship. I've been pro-free speech my entire life. I'll continue to be pro-free speech. It's the left that's changed. Let's see. So yeah, I'll be wrapping up. So just a couple things I could say in closing here. Again, thank you to all those people. Check out people like, I don't know everyone that's going to be there, but I do this Patriot panel on Monday nights. It will not be happening this because I think a lot of the people I do it with are going to be in Virginia, so they won't be doing that sort of panel. But that's people like American Joe. Check out his channel. Check out my friend Drone Tech's channel. And you could find these. I'm subscribed to all of them, but you could find them just by searching for them. I did a video with my friend SJG Perspective. You could check his channel out. Also, check out the Patriot Hour. That's the point with Brandon. Pete the Patriot. Those are all great people that I follow. I'm not saying I agree with them on everything, but they're independent content creators. One of the messages that I'm trying to get out that I'm really trying to push is that independent content creators, I don't care if you're on the left or the right, I don't care if you agree or disagree on most issues, we need to stick together because there is this attempt at control of all information by the establishment. And it's important, like I was saying, that we have allies across the spectrum to fight back against that. So support your independent content creators. You can support me by liking and subscribing, giving me a thumbs up on this video, or in the description of most of my videos, which I always forget to put it in these live streams, but is a link to my Patreon, to my PayPal account, to BitChute, and to Twitter, where you can follow me. So if you check out most of my, it's on the top of my page too. There's little symbols on the top of my banner, so you can support me on there. If you choose not to support me, find another independent content creator that you want to support, and that's cool too. The people I mentioned, or even people, if you're on the left, find people on the left that are independent that you can support. That's cool too. But we all need to stick together. If you have a channel and you'd like me to check it out, I'll check it out. I don't have a huge following, but I'm all about, I already did my first one supporting someone. I did a little video, Fluid Pour Art by Greg. Sounds like it's just an art channel. He does have some cool art stuff in there, but he's a patriot. He's a veteran of 2 branches. He's going to Virginia. So I urge you to check out his channel. I'm not saying I endorse everyone I say to check out. I haven't seen everything they've done, but I'm just saying it's important to push independent content creators, so that's something I try to do. So please consider following me on Patreon, PayPal, Twitter, BitChute. There's links to all that in my channel. I'll try to do an update tomorrow, Layman Gallagher. I really will. And again, follow people like American Joe that are going to be on there. So you check him out for probably live updates on the ground level. So he'll have more to say on it than me. So check that out. And yeah, I just really one more time want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. You have no idea. Most of the time, there's some great people in here like Modus I saw, Cindy that's here. These people have been with me for a long time. We used to do these live streams with 6-7 people. So just to be up to 60 people is incredible. I got my goal of 1,000 subscribers. So hopefully now when I go to Republican events, I'll be able to mobile live stream. So I just want to say thank you again to everyone. I'm humbled that you want to listen to me. It really does mean a lot to me. If you want to check something fun and different out, I did a live stream with my wife last night as a celebration for 1,000 subscribers. It's up on my channel. You can check out. She's better than me anyway. She's more interesting than me. Though if I don't wrap up here soon, you'll probably get to see her again as she's clubbing me in the head. But yeah, check that out. That video is up my stream. You might find that fun, and you get to learn a little bit more about me and my family and kind of my life. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, be safe if you're going to Virginia. And yeah, look for me. Remember, I'll be doing every week. Normally, we do the Patriot panel that'll be on Mondays at 10 o'clock. Remember with that, though, I won't be on that every week. I'll try to be in the chat if I'm not on there, and it'll be on a different channel every week. I'll put up, even if I'm not going to be on there, I'll try to put up on my channel whose channel that panel will be on. But I personally will be doing live streams every Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, every Friday at noon Eastern, and I'll be trying to do at least one video a day, with some exceptions, obviously, work and life getting in the way, but almost a video a day every day. So look for that. So sometimes I'll just throw up these impromptu live streams. I thought this went really well. So thank you so much, everyone. Be safe. Keep those people in Virginia in your thoughts, and thank you so much, and have a good one.